Hello, my name is Dr. Catherine Jones. I'm speaking today on behalf of Myeloma Patients Europe. I'll be presenting our Myeloma and AL Amyloidosis European Clinical Trial Navigator tool. Firstly, I'll give a short presentation about the Navigator. I will discuss how we keep it up to date and our plans to increase the accessibility of the information. And then at the end of the presentation, I'll give a short demonstration. So what is the European Clinical Trial Navigator? It's an online search tool about how to find clinical trials for myeloma, monoclonal gammopathy of undetermined significance, or MGUS, smoldering multiple myeloma, and AL amyloidosis in Europe. And with this tool, MP wants to facilitate the search of clinical trials for these conditions and provide patients and carers and patient advocates a patient-friendly tool, not only to find the clinical trials, but also to know their availability and locations. The Navigator isn't meant to be medical advice or provide medical advice, sorry, or make recommendations or assumptions about one's eligibility for a clinical trial, as it's not a trial matching tool, and MP isn't enrolling patients in clinical trials. But it is intended to be used as a guide and a reference to build the user's knowledge of available clinical trials. We would advise that you contact your clinician for further information before deciding to enroll in a clinical trial. So why did we build it? Patients and members reported they struggled to find comprehensive and reliable information on clinical trials, and that accessing up-to-date information was burdensome for them. Available search engines weren't always user-friendly, and Myeloma Patients Europe created this tool as a user-friendly tool. The MP Navigator offers a way to search for trials also by only showing the relevant conditions and other advanced search tools that I'll show later. And additionally, we aim to provide this information in local languages in 2025, as I'll explain later. So how was it built? It was conceived and designed with the input from patient organizations, patients, carers, and clinicians, and it relies on data from existing databases. However, it's also enriched by data that is shared with us from industry and academia. So how does the tool work? So clinical trials are linked to clinical trial sites, and then they appear on the map and the list of results. The map shows the sites, and then the sites will show the trials, and that is shown in the second step there. And we also have the advanced search that's available to allow users to select characteristics such as the study phase, recruitment status, type of medicine, and results availability, amongst other things. The clinical trial site location is very important to patients and carers, and the tool offers a way to select a specific location and search for trials in that area and neighbouring countries. The website also contains other information and also the news on updates about clinical trials on the Navigator, and news of results of clinical trials and what this means for European patients. And what we hope to achieve is to support the informed discussions between patients and their healthcare provider around the selection and participation in clinical trials. We also want to improve patient understanding about clinical research, clinical trials, enrolment and eligibility, and cross-border healthcare. We want to improve clinical trial engagement and enrolment, and ultimately promote progress and development in myeloma and AL amyloidosis treatments, diagnostics, quality of life, and care. We would like to provide a comprehensive view of the clinical trial landscape of myeloma and AL amyloidosis in Europe to advocate for better access and equity. So how do we keep the Navigator up to date? Our main source of information is clinicaltrials.gov, which is an online database of clinical research studies and information about their results. The website relies on sponsors and investigators who are leading the trials to submit up-to-date information on the trials. Each week we use a standardized search method to provide trial updates and to find new trials to put onto the Navigator. Another source of information is the Clinical Trials Information System, which is another database for trials in Europe. And the team at MPE liaises with trial sponsors, investigators, and MPE members to ensure that our information is kept up to date. We also regularly perform scientific watch by searching databases and generally being aware of news to the development of myeloma and AL amyloidosis treatments and research in Europe. And we then share this news via the website in the form of news stories. In 2025, we're looking to improve the accessibility of the tool by translating the Navigator website and clinical trials into 26 languages. And the Navigator website is already available in Finnish, and we aim to have the further languages available by the end of the year. We will also continually translate the new trials that are put onto the Navigator, and also we will continue to communicate with doctors and trial sponsors to gather up-to-date information. I would now like to give a short demonstration of how the Navigator works. I can select a country using this function at the top of the map, and now I've got selected Romania. By clicking on an area in the map, I can expand it, and that will show me the available clinical trials to explore. The number in the circle shows the number of sites in that area that can be expanded further. The site name is listed as this one here, and the number of trials in that site is in brackets next to it. When you click on it, you can click this search function to see all clinical trials for that particular centre. And when you do that, the information is displayed below the map. And the language used in the summaries of the trials is patient-friendly language. The information that are in the trial files here includes how many patients will be recruited, whether the trial is currently recruiting, and the side effects of the proposed interventions or medicines. And that's all shown here. At the side, there are filters. The easy search function includes disease, treatment line, and recruitment status. Disease and recruitment status. And the advanced search shows other characteristics such as the phase of the study and other things such as drug class. There's also a keyword search that you can enter, for example, if you know the name of the trial. For example, if I type Excalibur and search, this trial will be shown at the bottom here. There's also an option to sign up for alerts with your email. This will ensure that if you have chosen certain filters and then a new clinical trial comes up that is applicable to those filters, for example, multiple myeloma recruiting, then you will have an alert sent to your email that will show the updates and the new clinical trial of relevance. The website also contains news about clinical trials. New trials, for example, we post weekly, and updates to the Navigator, and also the results of clinical trials that have finished. On the homepage, an explanation can be found on how to use the Navigator, just here, and also On the information section, you can read more about clinical trials and how they work. And there's also a glossary function to help you decode the medical language that you might come across. And finally, there's a contact section and a feedback section if you have any comments or questions that you would like to ask MPE. Thank you so much for your time. Let us know if you have any comments or questions by using our feedback form.